Well, let's first of all talk about the lack of fixtures of late, then, shall we? How has that been for you, Neil? I think by the time you play a league game, it'll basically be one league game in a calendar month. It's getting a bit ridiculous now, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've always tried to play the card at the moment that I'm thankful that I'm in a job and a club that's doing things right. But I can't hide from the fact that myself and the players and the staff are getting really frustrated. We're creatures of habit. We're desperate for that buzz of a match day and to try and make inroads into where we want to go. And yeah, it has been tough. Obviously we went through COVID earlier in the season, and I think the protocols have changed slightly now. I think if there's one case in a group, everyone in that team self-isolates, and I think that's obviously the protocol now that's causing more games to get called off. So it's getting frustrating and tough, but it's life at the moment, unfortunately.
Are you becoming more convinced that the season might not conclude in the way that you'd hope, because the backup of fixtures, I think it's like, I don't know, certainly more than a game a week, almost 2 games a week you're going to have to play as it is, and if the number of postponements continues, that's just going to back up and back up and back up. Are you beginning to wonder whether the season will conclude in the way that you would ordinarily want it to?
I think at the moment where we might just be able to get through, it's going to be a hectic schedule, but we might just get there. I think if any more, and we haven't even really started on frozen pitches, or we're only just getting started on them and waterlogged pitches. So I think if that starts to creep in a little bit more over the coming month, then I think it might start getting a real struggle. So I'm not worried at the moment. I think we'll end up ploughing through it, but it's going to be a really tough schedule going in.
There's obviously worry from some clubs at your level and certainly below that as well, financially, and the money that clubs got to take you up to the first few months has now run out, and there are fears, aren't there, for some clubs about whether there's going to be more money coming in. Given the new strain of the virus, do you think there should be more money available for clubs at your level to help them through the remainder of this season now?
Yeah, I'm not up to speed with where that all is. I know that we had a sort of first 3 months, was it, a payment that got through 3 months, and it would be under review. But I'm sure that the authorities would have been thinking, that the chances of everything going back to normal by January would have been slim anyway. So I'm sure there is provisions in place to manage the way through. So like I say, it's above my pay grade, but I'm sure they've thought of that already, and I wouldn't think that's going to be an issue going forward.
The conversations you've had then with other clubs and other managers, I'm sure you have, that they're not particularly worried, or are they? I don't expect you to name names in clubs, but we're not sort of a bit of a different case in your division, aren't you, with the owners you've got? I wonder how others are feeling at the moment.
It's never come up. It's nowadays, with the strict protocols in place, you don't really get much time with the other managers. Whereas before they'd come in your office and you'd discuss the game afterwards. You don't really get much time now. You briefly see them outside if they hand in the team sheet, and then you see them at kickoff. So, most of the time the emotions are running high anyway. So I don't really get the opportunity to discuss with them.
Is there a bit more of I'm just thinking about you've always talked about the points per game as being important from your point of view. Could it actually come into a very practical sense again at the end of the season? And is that maybe why that's a focus? Seriously though, if you were to go on a bit of a run and get the points per game that you need, is that on your mind at the moment, thinking, well, there's a possibility at least of a season not ending like last year, and that might come into play?
No, it's not. It's not on my mind. I'm not thinking let's get to a points per game so that if the season ends, that's not at all. I'm fully expecting to go 44 games. When I look at the points per game, I just look at, because the league table's so erratic as far as the games that some teams have played. We could we don't play Saturday. We could end up 12th in the league, 13th in the league, and you look and go, well, look at us, we're mid-table, we're not doing very well. But you have to just focus on that. What are we on a target for? Because ultimately, at the end of 44 games, 85 points plus might win you the league, and 75 might get you in the playoffs. So it's just sort of going on that increment towards them targets. That's what I mean when I focus on that.
Have you had any opportunity with these games off to get any of the any players back to fitness, or closer to match action?
I think certainly with Cal Roberts, he had surgery over the Christmas period, and that seems to, touch wood, have gone really, really well. And the more games you have put back a little bit, the more games that he might have a chance of being available for. But other than that, Damien's gone in for surgery. Damien McCrory's gone in for surgery yesterday, I think. So he's going to be maybe 2 months, maybe 10 weeks, maybe 3 months. We don't know yet. We'll see how the surgery goes. But he'll be ruled out for a lot of the remainder of the season. We haven't really. I mean, obviously it then prolongs Ben Turner's 3-game suspension from his sending off at Hartlepool. So Ben will be, he'll be chomping at the bit even more so.
What about Wes Thomas? We haven't seen him.
So Wes is has come in to see us. He's got concerns with COVID and the situation where things are at the moment in the country. So Wes has refused to train with the group amid safety fears at the moment, and come to see us and tell us of that. As a club, we've obviously we need to look carefully at doing the right thing. Given the fact that the pandemic is bigger than all of us. So, we have sort of accepted his request and looking out for the safety of him and his concerns, and we've put a bespoke programme to keep him away from the group for the time being and try and keep him fit while we look to obviously, when things do get better and Wes does feel a bit safer and feels like he can join back in with the group, he'll be in a good place. So it's unfortunate, but with life as it is at the moment, you have to respect everybody's feelings about it, and that's certainly what we're doing as a club.
It doesn't look like the virus is going to go away anytime soon, though. So do you think you'll see him again before the end of the season, or are you making plans for, without him, maybe bringing somebody else in?
Yeah, we'll certainly look at the squad. I mean, we're going to strengthen the squad anyway with the games we've got coming up. We do need to strengthen the squad because we haven't got brilliant numbers as far as depth at the moment. But yeah, I don't know. They're talking about mid-February with restrictions being eased. And again, it's going to be a personal thing for Wes when he feels safe. So we'll just do the right thing by Wes, which is really, really important with the situation that's going on. Make sure we look after him and his safety and his family's safety, and we'll keep him ticking over and fit at the same time. And then when that time comes, hopefully, he'll come back in the fold when he feels the time's right.
You've extended Batty Wolf's loan, of course. Do you think you will start to see a lot more of him over the final part of the season? I
think we're going to have to. Not that that's a bad thing, because he's coming on leaps and bounds. We're really happy with him. But yeah, we go. I think we got Saturday, Tuesday for 2 weeks, then a break, and then I think it's Saturday, Tuesday for about 7 weeks. And normally a Saturday, Tuesday for 2 weeks is taxing on the group. So there is no way, even when Cal Roberts gets back fit, he's going to have to be dipped in slowly and surely. We are going to be rotating the squad regularly, and that's the only way we're going to get through this and keep a high level of performance. Hence, we need to strengthen the squad. And Matty Wolf, as much as all the others, will be part of that squad rotation.
Just finally, there's obviously no game this weekend. How close did that come? Do you know? Were you involved in any of that, or was that again kind of someone else?
Again, my understanding was that Eastleigh had a case that come. They were really upfront with us. Eastleigh straight away called us, let us know of what had happened. They were due to test their squad the following day to see how everything was. But I think the protocols now in the league are, if there is a case, that the whole group self-isolates for 10 days. So I think the decision to try and play the game was out of our hands. We then went to the league and approached a couple of other clubs that didn't have fixtures on the Saturday and that we're due to play further down the line, and they were both would have been away games for us. So we said, look, we're willing to travel at short notice. We're willing to change our plans because we wanted to get a game in, and both teams refused to play us. So we went to the league, but there's no provisions in place to kind of bring games forward. Obviously, the pandemic has made a few one-offs for the first time, so we've had to accept that we just can't seem to get a game.
Thanks, Neil. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Okay, Lee, over to you.
Neil, obviously just on that theme, how frustrating has it been to not be able to sort of arrange a game for this weekend?
Of course it is, because I know that game's got to come further down the line, and it's going to be in part of a really tough schedule. So, and the boys are just chomping, and bar probably Boreham Wood, where we underperformed. I would have thought slightly at Boreham Wood. The rest of the performances and the intensity and the work of the boys has been phenomenal. Even the Hartlepool game, we was exceptional for certainly the second half and parts of the first half against a good team. So it's frustrating because we're chomping, and we really want to sort of make inroads towards the top of that league, and we're just having to sit there and twiddle our thumbs. And like I've talked about before, momentum's really important, and when you feel that you're getting momentum in your performances, all of a sudden you're starting again, and hopefully we can pick that back up again.
I was going to say, how much of an impact do these breaks have in terms of match fitness and sharpness? I mean, you've not played since the 28th of December. By the time you come around, it'll be the 16th. I mean, what sort of challenges does that pose in terms of match fitness?
Well, it's not. I mean, we've got a good fit group, and we're going to work them hard in training. When we've got that sort of timelines, we'll always put sessions on where we try and increase their fitness levels. The problem is, it's just trying to keep the players' heads, my head, the staff's head. We're all about games. We're all about rolling towards them games. And before you know it, we're going to be sick of them because we're going to have so many in a short space of time. But it's just trying to keep that focus and get the balance right of the work and the rest ratio, time away from the place, because players, staff, just training every day without an end game can be quite tedious. If you're not working towards a game and a performance to get something, it can be quite tough. So trying to mix that up and keep that going when the games keep getting called off is difficult.
Just going back to the loan players, I mean, I know you've obviously tied up Matty Wolf and Tom Walker's gone back. What's the latest situation with Sam Graham and Jimmy Knowles?
Yeah, so Sam, we're in discussions with Sheffield United about, obviously we've got to look at Sam's development and whether he's getting enough game time. I'm sure he'll be getting some game time with us perhaps over the next week or so. But his loan is up, I think, on the 17th of January. So we are in discussions with Sheffield United, and whatever decision both them and us make will be for Sam's development, whether he stays or he goes. So there's a lot to talk about there. Jimmy Knowles, as far as we're concerned, he's happy. For a young 18, 19-year-old, we set sort of targets for how many sort of games off the bench on, starters he would look to try and get over the course of a season as part of his development. And, we feel confident he'll get them with all the games that we've got. And he's doing great in training. He's coming on leaps and bounds. So hopefully he'll be with us till the end of the season.
Have those conversations with Mansfield taken place?
Well, the deal was till the end of the season. There's always there's always a January moment that the club can look at it and pull him back maybe, but certainly that's not something we feel that's going to happen.
Obviously the Wes Thomas situation, it leaves you obviously a striker light in that instance. Is that a position that you want to strengthen? Yeah,
I think it's certainly something we need to. We've got a little bit of flexibility across the front. I think the one area we've probably only got one main player of is Carl Wooten. As far as a natural number 9, Eli was still developing into that sort of number 9 role, but Eli has played very well off the sides and off of a striker rather than being the more physical force. And the same with Jimmy. Jimmy wants to play off of a Carl. So I think if we do look down the mould, we'd be looking for sort of somebody physically who can play as a 9, play with Kyle, off Kyle, up on his own, and because Carl Wooten's never going to be able to play Saturday, Tuesday for 7 weeks without breaking himself.
What sort of age range would you be looking at? Would you be looking at someone with experience or
anything from 15 to 45? They're not easy.
I don't know many 45-year-old strikers who are still playing, mate.
They're not that easy to find, I can assure you. That's why we've kept the range nice and wide.
But is an experienced player somebody you'd like to bring in, or is it just a case of if they're good enough, it doesn't matter how old they are?
It's a difficult position, finding a sort of target man type, number 9 type striker. Everyone's after them, so it's a difficult position. But we've got a few on the radar, and we're hopeful that business will be getting done over the next week or so.
And would that be a loan deal?
I think so. I think with our recruitment and our model and the work we put into it, you wouldn't want to. January is always a difficult time. I think bringing in players to help you with your promotion push is one thing. Bringing in players that take you into following years and sort of limit what recruitment you can do in the summer is probably something that we as a club wouldn't be looking to do at the moment.
And obviously with the situation with Wes, do you see a resolution there? What sort of conversations have you had with him?
I know with Wes, it's we've got to look out for Wes's safety. Wes's he's allayed his concerns to us that he doesn't feel comfortable to train with the group, and with everything that's going on with COVID, with it's bigger than football, it's bigger than me, it's bigger than any of us. We need to, as a club, look at people's different reasons for this and accept them and move with them. And it's unfortunate that we haven't got a player of his quality, but we do need to do the right thing by Wes, and we will do that. We'll give him a separate training programme, and we'll keep him away from the squad and make sure that we do everything we can to keep him and his family safe if that's the way he feels.
I've just got to ask you about the National League and obviously the money situation, and obviously the lottery grant that was paid up in the last 3 months. I'm sure you would have been aware of that. Can I ask you as a question as a manager, do you think with the disparity that's obviously been sort of revealed by this independent panel in terms of how the money was distributed, do you think that has compromised the integrity of the league at all?
It's a difficult one. It's not. I don't know the ins and outs of what clubs shouldn't have, and who's. I haven't really looked into enough detail to see who's benefited and who hasn't from what's happened. The only thing that I know was that when the money was being asked for and being dished out, that they asked everybody for their gate receipts from the season before, and I don't know, but I would have thought it wouldn't be too hard to sort of put a calculation down based on what everybody was due to get, and then distribute the money accordingly to that. And I thought that was what the money was for. It seems strange to sort of put people into groups and just pigeonhole Notts County with somebody else in their group and somebody else. It's not what the money was given for. So it's a difficult one. I don't know the ins and outs of it. We've obviously, as a club, made it clear of how our feelings are. So we'll just have to see what happens going forward and hope that it gets done in a really fair way.
Obviously, Matty Wolf, you signed. How pleased are you to keep him at the club? And what has he got to do to break into the first team? Obviously we're delighted to keep him. We've done a lot of work with him, and it's a difficult one with Matty because the team got COVID when he first come, and we had to come away, and then we got back, and then we got training, and then he ended up not well, so he had to have a spell off, and by the time he's got himself back in, he's then grown as a player, and we've done loads of work on the training field with him, and there's a natural growth from training with the Reeveses and the Doilies and the Jims, and all of a sudden, in Morpeth we saw he was good on a really poor pitch. He drove through, albeit against a team from a lower level, and I judge things on training, how he's coping with training with good players, and he's really got there. And that's what we told Barnsley, although his playing time's been limited, there's a different player, there's a different animal there now, and we've done a lot of work, and we'd like to continue that and start to develop the game time with it, and hopefully that will happen certainly with the fixtures we got. Tom Walker obviously went back. Callum Roberts is still. Are you still hoping that Callum will be back in January? And if he's not, is that another position that you would look to strengthen?
We're hoping Callum will be. There's a small chance Callum might be in and around training the end of January. And again, even when he does come back into the team, even if that's sort of early February, we can't just start throwing him into 90 minutes. So he'll be dipped in, and even when he does start games, I'm going to have to bring him off on 60 minutes regardless of the result. So, there might be times when we're 1-0 down in a game and Callum gets brought off, and everyone will wonder why we've brought off one of our best sort of goal scorers and creative players. But if not, we'll break him and we'll lose him all over again. So, we will build him up, and hopefully the team can carry the burden. And when Cal does come back, it'll be like having a new signing.
So a winger's not, you're not looking for a winger, because you brought Tom in to help compensate for the loss of Callum, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, we've got options off the sides, but we are looking actively at the moment for a few positions. And one of the ones we're looking at is, like, we're looking at left back, obviously with Damien's injury, but we are also looking at maybe a wide player that can play fullback as well, so we've got an attacking fullback or a good wide player. So there's a couple on the radar that we're just looking at the games we're going to have in the squad, and having players that can play one or two positions is really, really important.
Brilliant, mate. That's it.
Jake, over to you.
Well, hi Neil. Just a few follow-up questions from what the guys have asked, really. You mentioned that the players, of course, are chomping at the bit to get games on. I'm just wondering how they're all doing at the moment. If you had to pick them up or put an arm around them and just say, look, everything's okay, we've just got to ride this out, sort of thing.
I've had to have a few chats with them because, I get frustrated and I get down about games getting called off. So, I know how they feel. So I've had to sort of... It's difficult because, even normally you can even talk about, right, we'll go out and we'll do a bit of team bonding or we're going at, all these kind of things that you do. We can't even do any of that. You're not meant to be around each other much. Eating lunch from a distance from each other. It's really difficult. So there is frustrations in the group, and I can see that sometimes in training, they're getting angst about not playing games. So we do have to try and manage that, and we're trying to keep the spirit bubbling, give them a little bit of time away from the place when they're here, try and keep their fitness levels higher. So it's a real balancing act, and hopefully, when we do come back, the lads will take that out in their performances.
And Tom Walker, his loan has expired. I'm just wondering what you made of his performances in the Notts County shirt. Yeah,
we didn't get to see enough of him. There was one or two games where I felt it was, in the Stockport game, I thought Jim O'Brien was the right option, and I thought that was proved right on the day. I thought he did quite well in the game, considering he was struggling with his chest in the Hartlepool game. But he's a talented boy, and what Tom showed in training, he didn't often enough show in the games. But he's a super talented boy. Tom, decided he wanted to go back and fight for his place at Harrogate, and obviously that's his decision, and Harrogate have taken him back. So we move on, and we'll try and strengthen the squad.
And of course, you respected the players' wishes, but would he have been someone that kind of, with Cal Roberts still out, would you have liked to have kept him on, given the option?
To be honest with you, it was one where after the Hartlepool game, we had a couple of days off, and in our first staff meeting was going to be that sort of discussion about, where do we go? Is Tom the right man to take us forward, etc. And we was going to have that, and then that decision really got taken from us because we got a phone call to say that Tom would be going back to Harrogate, and so we didn't even have that conversation. So I couldn't even tell you what the outcome would have been.
Fair enough. And with the increased amount of cases and things like that we're seeing, of course, you guys know more than anyone of the impact that it's having on games being postponed. Even with all the protocols in place, do you think that football is kind of like safe enough to still carry on at the moment, or should it be something that should look to be shelved?
I think, and I've said this before, and I'll stick by what I said, I do think that testing is really, really important to know that your bubble's as safe as it can be. And I totally get the financial constraints at lower levels and the expense of testing. I'm really pleased to see that the EFL and through the PFA have decided they're going to do it twice a week now through all leagues, because I do feel that will give everyone a greater chance to feel safer. I mentioned before, you are going into the unknown a little bit, and I do think football can continue. I do think football clubs try and take responsibility for doing it the right thing. But as we all know, with this virus at the moment, it's everywhere.
Do you think that testing programme that you mentioned there is the key to the season finishing at all?
I don't know. Our league have put protocols in place to try and make sure that teams are safe and not take any chances. I really hope that with the vaccine and everything that's going on and the new lockdown, that the cases become less and less, and football does find a rhythm, certainly at our level. And it would be great if we could add testing, but I understand the financial constraints of lower levels.
And just finally from me, of course, with the absence of a fixture this weekend, what will you be working on with the players? Will it be a week hard on the training ground, or?
Well, we are trying to. We're still in the throes of trying to do a little behind closed doors game to get some minutes into the boys, but it's due to snow. The pitches are frozen, despite having frost sheets down. We're facing challenges from all sides at the moment to even train and get on the pitches. So we'll play that one by ear. But yeah, it's always a balance of not overtraining, working really, really hard, keeping the players fresh, getting them away from the place at times, and we're working hard on that.
I was going to say, can that be a little tricky to manage at times? Because, like I say, I can imagine with no games, the players are chomping at the bit to wanting to play. I'm guessing sometimes have you got to sometimes hold them back from training, from over exerting themselves too much?
It happens all the time. We have to separate them once or twice when the tackles go flying in, but it's the way we roll and the way we work, and we're all doing our very best. But yeah, hopefully when the games come, I mean, there'll come a point soon when the games was coming around when we'll barely be training. So there'll be that many games. So we look forward to that when it comes.
Brilliant. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And, thanks for your time, Neil.
Cheers, Jake. Over to you, John.
Hi, Neil. Nice
Hiya.
to see you. Yeah, you've already spoken in some depth about the fixture situation. You said it's just about sustainable as it is, with a fair few unknowns with the weather and whatever happening. Do you think, is there anything that the National League can do to ease the situation, either in terms of bringing in mandatory testing, or perhaps anything different with their protocols? Because this weekend you've got a match being called off because of one case. It would seem as though that was the situation throughout the rest of the season. We're going to get an awful lot of games called off. Yeah,
it's really difficult. I don't know what's in their procedures, but what I would say is, in an ideal world, testing would be one thing that you'd start with. Maybe the ability to rearrange games and the flexibility if two teams who were COVID-free were due to play each other later on in the season could bring a game forward. It's not like you're messing fans around at the moment and they've got to get to the games. But again, it might be something that it's too hard for them to bring in during a season. I think they're the only things really logically that the league would be able to do to try and speed up the process and make sure games do get played. But whether that's logistically, something they could do is above my head really.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the game this weekend was called off, and you said that you'd made a couple of inquiries about possible trips. Were you a little bit disappointed that that's not occurred, not been able to happen?
Of course you're disappointed because we wanted to play. Every club has its reasons. I don't really know the situations within the clubs. Maybe it didn't fit in with their schedule. Maybe they had injuries. Who knows? But the league, I don't think are in a position to enforce it. It's not in the rules. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. But something like that would certainly help. Free up midweeks for when another game might get cancelled, and all of a sudden you've got no midweeks to fit the game in.
Yeah, the actual statistic is that presuming that you do get out on the pitch at Yeovil on 19th, that will be your 15th game of the season. There's 44 games, and by that time last year you will have already played 30 games. Are we getting towards the stage, you think, where the National League should think of giving it some slack and a further extension to that to the final day, for the season?
You're eating into my holidays, though. That's probably going to be a possibility going forward. That if things did get worse, that might be a way of finishing the season. Who knows? I don't know what the rules and regulations are, obviously, with the possible Euros and summer tournaments and stuff like that. So I think at the moment, we plough on. We do our very best to get on with all the games that we are going to have, all the teams. And at the back end of the season, I think the National League will have a sort of clearer picture on where they are and what they might need to do to get the season finished.
I mean, the National League is taking one view on postponed games. Other organisations are taking others. Very, very close geographically, we've got a situation where Derby playing in the FA Cup on Saturday, and them not even being able to, they're actually producing a side which is a side from their first team squad. How do you rate what the way the FA is ruling these things compared with the National League? Which approach do you think is better?
I haven't got all the data that these guys have got. I'm like you, almost like a fan looking at it, saying, wow, look at that situation. So I'm sure they've all got their own justifications and reasons for why they might take a decision and keep the competition rolling or cancel games. And I'm sure with whatever process they've taken, they feel that it's the right way to do it. I really don't know enough about it to be able to say what should be done and what shouldn't be done. I think if I sat in a meeting and listened to the facts, I could give an opinion, but I don't know them all. Just
finally, do you think that this week, I think the Chesterfield manager said he was disappointed that they, after a fairly lengthy layoff, they played 2 games in 4 days. Do you think that at the moment it's just about sustainable to keep the National League going despite the postponements and the rise of cases in the country?
Yeah, it's difficult because we've got to be careful. We can't moan that we keep getting games cancelled and then moan that we're playing games as well. I've got it all up on my board, and we will literally be Saturday, Tuesday for 4 or 5 weeks at some point. And you're not going to find me after the game saying, well, this is a ridiculous schedule, the boys are tired, because I'm moaning at the moment that we haven't had enough games, and that they've got to come at some point. So what we're trying to do as a club is just get ourselves ready for it, get the players ready for it, take a deep breath and then roll with it. And if we get beat because our legs run out one day, then so be it. It's going to be survival of the fittest this season.